for us out of the empty packages are pivots. Again, a concept we stole from Bowling Green and now Central Michigan, who has a Bowling Green guy on the staff, has really been a great help to us. It was a big one for Utah. We put Utah's whole season in our computer, 13 games worth at Eastern Illinois back in, I want to say, 2003 or 4, and broke this stuff down to really take the pivot as a great cover 2 beater out of empty. It's been a really good play for us. Again, man and zone, it's been a very efficient play for us. We were not a great team throwing the football last year, particularly with one back in the backfield. When we got into empty and we called any type of pivot, okay, we were 70% completion, and we were probably, and I don't have it in front of me, but for us an explosive pass play counts as 16 yards or more. We were in that neighborhood every time we did it. So it was very, very good to us. Again, part of that's product of our quarterback. Our quarterback's 224 pounds. Basically what he does is if number one's not open, he scrambles. So his completion percentage is great. Unfortunately, what he does sometimes is he doesn't throw the ball to the open guy on 3rd and 8. But the son of a gun has a knack for scrambling for 9 yards too. So we'll take him. He's got 2 more years left and does a good job. For us, again, the pivot concept is we're building a triangle, just like you guys did with the old curl flat stuff back in the day. We are building an interior triangle. Okay, the thought process for us is we want to distribute these 3 routes. And there's our triangle right there. Okay, we're going to high-load the call side linebacker. Okay, so what we're doing, if we call X pivot, the guy who's tagged runs a 10-yard edge break. What I mean by edge break, he's going to snap this thing flat. He's not going to drift here in the center field. He's snapping it right down the line, right down the edge, and we'll talk about why we do that in a moment. Okay, these 2 guys are going to be in a nasty split. A nasty split for us is 4 yards apart. Again, I stole this verbatim from a guy named Zach Ebony, who was at Bowling Green, who's now at Central Michigan. Is as sharp as the receivers coach's area is, and this is blatant. All this is really blatant plagiarism from him. This pivot series. They're 4 yards apart. What we're trying to do, the linebacker to the pivot called side is our movement key. So we're trying to put him in a bind. We're having this guy depart on a 45 to 5 yards. Okay, he's going to stick his inside foot in the ground. He's going to snap this thing back out flat. We don't want him to drift either. He should come flat in this line. The big should come flat in that line. Okay, so if we tag X pivot, the next guy inside is running the bounce. The X is running the 10-yard dig or edge break. The 3rd guy in the mix is running the pivot to the other side. Again, this is 3 to 4 guys. We've really deepened this up to 5 yards. Again, both working out flat. Okay, if you're not one of the 1, 2, 3 guys involved in the pivot, your protection release, if you're an inside receiver, which means you're going to outside release this guy over top of you, get him out of the picture, or you're going to team release if you're the guy outside, which you're going to take that corner out of the picture. Okay, what we're telling our quarterback, again, it's progression read. So we're 1 to the inside pivot. Okay. But our movement key is the will linebacker. So the will linebacker drops off, we throw the ball to number 1 right now. Okay. If the will linebacker pulls out, now we're 2 up to the top part of the triangle to the edge break. If he's out of the zone, the inside window should be open. Again, why we're snapping this thing flat. Okay. This free safety, whether you're cover 2 or your cover 3, is going to be up top. So if you speed cut this thing, which we don't speed cut any routes that we do, okay, if you speed cut this, you're going to run yourself right into a headache. Whether it's a Mike linebacker running through center field in cover 2 or a free safety in cover 3 or cover 1, this needs to be an edge break. Again, these routes are also man beaters. They should be stuck and sprint on the run. Okay, the one thing we're doing, we'll talk about the hot concept for us inside. This guy will come to the top of the stem. If it's a zone dog, he'll settle for a count, but he'll then work his way back out. So we'll replace an inside blitz with these 2 guys right here. Again, otherwise they're going to keep moving on their way. Okay, so again, if our movement key, this linebacker, drops out, the quarterback should work right here. Okay, if for some reason there's a linebacker in that window, the quarterback's got to work now back to number 3. Okay, we've got to have somewhere to go with the ball. If these 2 linebackers are pushing their way so far into the boundary or so far to the pivot side, we should be able to throw this ball back to number 3. Again, that's in our cover 2 look. As a man beater, what these guys are trying to do is pivot out flat. Again, sell the shallow cross for 45 degrees, then work yourself back flat out towards the boundary. Again, don't drift here into coverage. Right, let your man coverage guy work there. You want to snap this thing flat. And also don't lose ground. Okay, we don't want you coming back downhill and catching the ball at 1 yard. There's not a lot of value to that. We want that ball thrown at 5. Again, throw short and run long. Great clips on that video. Again, you guys shoot me an email. You see a lot of clips of us when teams pressure us, particularly inside blitzes. We get this ball, this guy right here, he tight spins outside and runs down the sideline. Okay, or teams man pressure us, and we get this dig right here. We snap this thing flat again. Great man separator because it's on the move. We complete it. Now he's splitting through coverage. The only guy he's got to beat is the free safety. So that for us is X pivot. Okay, so we're working to pivot to the weak side. Now what we've got the ability to do, we can tag anybody. Any of the five receivers in a pattern can be tagged pivot. So once they get tagged pivot, okay, the other two guys next to them know, okay, we're going to run the bounces and the guy tagged is running the dig. Okay, so the thought process here, if we go wide pivot, say we're in 11 personnel, we have the tight end in the game. Now he's my dig runner. Okay, so now the first guy outside runs the pivot. The next guy across, again, those three are involved in the pivot. Those two are my bouncers. That's my edge break, my 10-yard dig. And then these guys are both protection and release, which we change as post. We're just outside. We're taking the top off. Again, what we're telling these guys is you've got a bouncer coming back out here, okay? So take this corner out of the picture. Don't go inside and get this guy's block knocked off. Team release outside and work. Again, nasty split here. Excuse me, for the two guys involved in the pivot, 4 yards apart. Again, normal to plus split for our two guys running those protection release or those team routes on the outside. Again, thought process being we're going to read that triangle. Again, just like you told your guys back in the day, we're going to read that triangle, and we're going to read it from call side to weak side. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3. Again, who's the movement key? The movement key is the first linebacker to the pivot side. He pulls out, he drops off, we throw it to the bounce. He pulls out, we throw it to the dig. These two boss it back over here for some odd reason. We throw it over here opposite the call. Okay, again, any zone pressure we get, again, these guys at the top of their stem are going to stop at 5 yards. Just turn and face the quarterback for a count. Make eye contact with him. He gives me the ball. Now I throw a short run long. He doesn't give it to me. I work right back out flat right now. Because what you do not want to do is these guys are not allowed to cross this imaginary line right here at the top of their stem. Again, 45 to the 5. This area belongs to the dig. If these guys cross into this zone, again, it's one of the things I'm sure drives everybody here nuts. You stack everybody up top. Now you don't have your routes distributed in your pattern the way you want. Again, we've all talked about this before, but one of the things I learned at Mount Union from Coach Karras was that you want 5 routes, okay, to build this pattern on the field so the quarterback sees exactly what he's going to see. Once you guys get too deep, or we get too short, or we get off our landmark, again, now the pattern's been compromised. We're breaking down before the defense breaks down. Okay, so we want to make sure these bouncers do not come into this middle area. Okay, again, if they get the ball put on them, they're great. If not, they're working back out, looking to pull these movement keys out and work the dig in the middle. Again, these team routes, these guys, we call them a team route. You're taking one for the team. Again, you're working outside. You're testing this corner. You're wearing him out. You're running him deep 60, 70, how many times again we ask you to do it. So when it comes to the moment of truth, he's not going to be ready to go. Again, we call wide pivot, strong pivot. So 1, 2, 3 are involved in the pivot. Again, the guy tag runs the dig. The other 2 run the bouncers inside. The people not involved in the pivot, they're running with team routes. So this guy's actually going to be mandatory outside release, taking one for the team down the field.